Hello everyone and welcome to Dakota Falls, a fictional USA county inspired by the beautiful state of Colorado. Here in Dakota Falls we have previously built the small city of River's Edge with its cozy downtown with red brick sidewalks, its pre-war suburbs with streets lined with big old trees, as well as its newer suburbs with their modern houses and more dark, freshly laid pavement. We've also created what has now been named Chestnut Island, with its small commercial center and gorgeous marina, and very wealthy suburbs with personal boat ramps. Today we'll continue the expansion of this region through a series of high detailed builds. And as always, if you enjoy my content, hitting the like button will help me out a ton, and recently I've been friendly reminding people to subscribe if they've forgotten to, as more than 80% of my audience isn't subscribed, so many thanks. Alright, so we're going to start today's development effort here in River's Edge, and if we zoom out a bit, we see that we've actually managed to turn it into a nice little city by now, and I'm especially happy with how these suburbs out here turned out, because these areas are actually zoned, so I'm using this district style editor mod to create specific district styles, and I've created one called Historic USA Middle, which is middle income basically, and it's composed of a bunch of assets from many different collections, and overall the thing they have in common is that I'm pretty certain most of these are from before the Second World War, and some of them might even be from before the Great War. And they are all only 2 tiles wide for zoning, and it really helps create this really nice look where you've got pretty narrow lots and then these beautiful old houses here and the mountains in the background. So very happy with how that turned out. I'm not going to do any changes here. I have zoned some additional areas so we can see more growth, but we are probably not gonna see that right now because we've got pretty much zero demand for residential, and we've got decent demand for industry or offices and a bit of demand for commercial as well. So that is something we're gonna have to take care of. But before we do that, I am actually going to add some additional residential stuff throughout the town, because I want to add a bit more character to the downtown by having a few row house complexes built, or apartment complexes. And I also want to push development of the city beyond this stretch of intersection here. So up here in the northern part of River's Edge, we've got Easy Hill, where we can already see a transitioning zone from the furthest extent of the old pre-war suburbs, at least the furthest extent in the northern direction. And then this start of modern developments, we've got this type of a bit of a cheaper development where the lot sizes are really small, the houses are pretty much similar, and then we've got this modern development over here where the streets are a little wider, the houses are a little bigger, and they sit on bigger lots. Some of these might even be classified as McMansions with a few odd shapes or whatnot. So we've already got a theme going here where as we go north, things start to change into more modern developments, and that's exactly what we're going to create here as well. So I'm just going to start by clearing out this area for trees. We might add a bit of stuff later, but as this is a modern suburban development, or relatively modern at least, we won't have as many big old trees perhaps. At least not in between the buildings. Oh, there's a bit of an issue here. I'm just gonna remove this. I think I have some anarchy enabled. Maybe that's messing up things. I'm just gonna where is it? Turn off tree anarchy. Great. So I want to create a pretty cookie cutter road layout for this modern development, and I'm going to steal the type of road I've used here, because this is like a 2-lane road with parking on just one side, which makes it, as you guys can see, it makes it a little narrower. These guys really love BMW, so makes it a little narrower. And then one thing I'm also going to do is use the network skins mod to just change the surface to dirt, instead of pavement. Because what you'll see then is that as I start dragging out this road, we'll just enable some snapping to get a nice straight road going here. Just gonna find the node and we'll just go 90 degrees like so. And I'm just gonna remove all this, which is essentially props. What you'll see is that since I've changed the surface from pavement to dirt, and the dirt/grass texture of the theme I'm using is so similar to the regular grass, it essentially just looks like there's no sidewalk. And that is exactly the type of look I want for this particular development. We also see that the pavement is just darker, just representing that this road was paved quite recently. It's not an old development, it's a pretty modern development out here, and I'm just gonna complete the road layout and get back to you in just a second. So this is a pretty good start and pretty much what I want. I'm going to use the network multi-tool to add some additional nodes just next to the end node of these roads here, and that's going to allow me to create a cul-de-sac by using the node controller mod. I'm just going to add these, and then in just a sec it's going to make sense. Unfortunately, as you guys can see, it kind of reverts the settings of the road to the default look whenever I use this, but I can just jump in and upgrade the segments again and everything's fine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and then we're going to grab node controller and we're gonna select the end node here, say more options, and then we're just gonna stretch it to, I guess about 140 is what we want. And our next step is basically just placing down the types of houses we want. And in theory, we could actually zone this because the curves are, I mean, yeah, they're a little rough here, but generally this area would be all right for zoning. But I'm not gonna do that this time around. I do want full control. But I need to find, of course, the type of assets that I want to have here. And I wanna select, you know, assets from the same collection so that the houses are very, very similar. So if we use the picker mod to select one of these, for instance, we see it's one of these boomer homes. So if we were to narrow down the search with the find it mod, that would make sure that all of these houses look very, very similar. I'm not gonna select those as we've already got areas with those. So I'm just going to find another set of houses, that I think is going to be a good fit and is basically from the same theme. So we've got this collection of 90s houses, 90s style suburban house that is pretty cool. They come with pretty nice driveways as well, so we would be able to adjust them, move them very, very close to the road. I'm gonna let them sit for a bit and then continue looking and seeing if I've got something else. We've got another pack here called CCM Primrose with just 5 variations, and they are pretty nice as well. They are a bit smaller and a little more subtle than these, and I think they are actually the ones I want to go with. I'm just gonna remove all of these, and then I'm going to jump in to find it, and I'm going to narrow down the search bar so that I only have these CCM Primrose houses here. And I think I'm going to use all the variations. And a little trick you can use is that if you jump into your options and go to settings for the find it mod, so here, then you can actually bind this one called random selection to whatever key of your choice. I bind it to R because that feels very natural. And what that means is that when we've selected a house here and I press R, I can actually just super quickly browse through all the options I have available. And the cool thing here, of course, is that I'm limited to these 5 houses. And since I know I want all 5 of them, it's gonna enable me to really place a ton of these like proper turbo mode. There is something I'm going to adjust first before I go ahead and do that though, and that is that these houses, as you guys can see, they're only 3 zoning tiles deep, and as we are going to adjust all of them so that they're real close to the road, they're gonna be even, they're gonna seem even deeper, less deep, sorry. Well, so if we just adjust this house to this height, then, and this is what I mean, we're gonna have a pretty large amount of empty space here. Now, we could fill that in with like trees or nice bushy things or stuff like that, but I think it's gonna be a little too much because this is not going to be a super upscale area with tons of space. It's gonna be solidly middle class, simple built homes. So I am going to grab these roads here and then I'm simply just going to squeeze the whole thing together so that there's not this much space in between the roads. Alright, and if you feel that I pretty much just eyeballed that and just went with it, then that was very intentional. It's gonna mean that there's a bit of a curvature probably. If we check, yeah, then we can see that the zoning pattern isn't absolutely perfect because these are not perfectly 90 degrees anymore. And I think that's fine. It's probably pretty realistic that it's not completely perfect the way the roads are laid out. And since we'll be manually placing down all the houses anyways, and we only need 2 zoning tiles wide to actually place them, shouldn't be much of an issue. So the next step is basically just to crank up the turbo and just mass place these houses throughout. And now comes my privilege of being a high detailed creator, because now I of course have to adjust all of these so that they are perfectly aligned with this narrow road. And I'm pretty sure that I could have done this in a much clever way, so I'm just gonna show you so you don't make my mistake, but I always forget this. If you grab a road, then if you get the zoning adjuster mod, you can actually change the zoning setback. So if we set it to -2 meters, for instance, you can see that the zoning is the zoning tiles are almost right next to the actual road. And if we say 2 by 5, we're getting even closer. And I bet if we say 3 meters and we place one of our assets, I mean, it's not perfectly aligned, but it's very close. So I'm wondering if we can actually, 3.5 might be a bit too much, but we'll just give it a check. No, that's pretty much perfect. So basically, if I had just graded my road layout while having this option set to 3.5, the adjustment would be a little easier. But, you know, now you know, and yeah, don't do like me. Remember the trick, don't forget it. But yeah, just gonna go ahead and manually adjust all this, and I'm not gonna bore you with that, so you'll pretty much just see a super quick time lapse and then the end result after 5 minutes. Yeah, so I know I told you that would take 5 minutes, but yeah, it took considerably more than 5 minutes, so don't make the same mistake I did. But it would have taken time either way because I wanted to carefully place some houses on each of the cul-de-sacs, and I think it looks pretty good. So pretty happy with it. I think we're going to just designate this as a district on its own, of course. And Madison Park, I'd rather you guys name it. So any suggestions, to name this suburb here, this neighborhood, and if it's humorous or witty, makes fun of the generic look of it or whatever, then that's fine with me. Feel free, so shoot any suggestions in the comments down below. But I think something's gonna be interesting is checking the population, because this is actually, like, if we zoom out, it's a pretty big area, right? I mean, Madison Park is, I'm pretty certain, yeah, it's definitely bigger than downtown. It's almost twice the size, at least just in the footprint, right? But if we check the actual makeup of the area, we've got 210 households and a population of 336 people. And if we compare that to downtown, we've got a population of just about 500 spread across 145 households. And we have almost 400 jobs here in total. So, I mean, it really showcases the difference in zoning, or sorry, yeah, I mean, in real life it would be zoning density, of course, but also just the densities that we're using here in game. And I guess there's no wonder that if you have a city that sprawls with too much of this, such as Houston or Dallas or Jacksonville, or I mean, the examples from the US are endless, then it's clearly going to be an issue, because you have to stretch your service coverage so thin. And how are you going to maintain all this infrastructure? Like the amount of paved roads just to build an area like this, as opposed to our cozy downtown, which is, I mean, it's barely 4 blocks, right? It's a pretty dramatic difference. Anyways, I am actually going to add a little more detail to Madison Park, because it does look a little too barren right now. And if you remember from a previous episode, I'm pretty sure we discussed that here in Dakota Falls, developers have some pretty strict regulations on how they can clear the landscape for new developments. So they have to very carefully consider when they remove tree and bushes, because they're only allowed to remove to just about make space for the lots that they have purchased and will be developing on. That's also why we've got some older, beautiful trees here in between these houses that are obviously much younger than the trees. So we're going to see the same thing up here in Madison Park. I am going to add some trees in between the houses, not alongside the streets. I'll maybe add some smaller trees alongside the streets, just to kind of showcase that the developer also did a little landscaping as part of this development. We can already see they have done so in these front yards. So let's get into the detailing. Just look at the difference this makes. I've said it before, and I'll probably continue saying it. Adding trees is like the single biggest improvement you can make to an area, at least if there are no trees up front. So I picked this small oak, which I assume is not an actual type of tree, but a small oak tree that will grow to something nice and magnificent in 20 or 30 years. So the developer has really done what they could to add some greenery to the place. And of course, we've got these older nice trees that haven't been removed because the developer simply weren't allowed to. So hooray for the politics of Dakota Falls. They really take the natural beauty of the area quite serious. And I don't think we'll be doing any more detailing to this area. We gotta move on, because I've got more I want to build. There's one more thing I want to add though. I want to use the intersection marking tool to make a nice, make some nice textures here, of course. But other than that, I want to try and add maybe like a small utility building or something like that. Maybe just a shed even. Just something used by like is it groundskeeper? Is that even the word? I'm not quite sure, but I'm just gonna add something to add a bit of variety to this area. So this is something used by the staff that maintains this area basically. I'm just gonna make sure they're the same height, or this one is a little taller to avoid clipping. Then I think we are going to grab a pavement decal so that we've got. That's not pavement. That's, what does that even say? There you go. And we're gonna go from prop to decal, and we're gonna grab one of these. It's probably this one that's the best fit. We'll just add that carefully here, and let's see. We're gonna add one here as well. Adding this, whatever it is, no idea, generator or something of some sort. Then maybe just a truck for the employee. And then a very basic fence just to round it off. Cool, so we finished up with the small utility shed. I added a bunch of fall leaves throughout because this is the autumn, basically. And I added some very, very simple decals, or markings rather, with the intersection marking tools here. And that is pretty much, well, Madison Park for now, until you guys come up with a good suggestion. We're now going to move our attention to downtown River's Edge, where I would like to just densify the downtown just a bit and add some more unique types of development to make it just a more unique place with some more distinct areas basically. Something I've been considering filling out has been this empty block of land we've got here, and I might even think I'm even going to include this one just north of here. So if we're just gonna actually delete these houses as well, and then I'm gonna do some type of row house development here. I feel a pretty good spot, like on the outskirts of the downtown core, right next to this baseball field and some parkland. Just see what we can find. So I'm going to check for low density residential first, because as you can see, sometimes the row houses end up being classified as low density by the asset creators. I have already deselected vanilla, so that's good. So I'm just looking for a type of row house that I feel would be a good fit here. And we've got these college park housing from a college park elementary school in Atlanta, USA. They have quite an interesting look, I think. And we've got 4 variations here with different types of, like, if we just pause the game, we can see that we have different types of pathways that are a part of this asset, which is pretty cool, because I guess we can do something creative here then, maybe with parking. So let's see if we just place down one more out here, and we grab this one, copy paste it, and we just align it ever so slightly so that it's perfectly aligned, or good enough at least. I'll just go and adjust to terrain, we've got this look, and then maybe we can do some sort of custom parking like here. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just copy paste it and see if I can also fit a selection of these up here. And there's some elevation here that I need to be careful about. Or alternatively, I'm just going to select all this node, and adjust to this node. Yeah, that works as well. I rather have this be flat, should make it a little easier to work with than trying to have it be elevated, especially now that I plan to involve some parking. But I guess the question is whether these should actually be... I'll keep it aligned like this for now, and then we'll see if it makes sense to actually try and fit some parking in here. So maybe we should just go ahead and grab some asphalt decals or props so that we've got room for the parking. Alright, that pretty happy with how this turned out. A bit finicky working with the parking lots here due to some small changes in heights here. It is a bit slopey actually. There's a small problem, and that is that these basically just contain one household, so they're low density residential. They're pretty much just classified as a single family home. Okay, these actually have two. This is a bad example, but I'm using this realistic population mod, which is changing population figures for most buildings. And one of the big changes, of course, is that only one household lives in a one household house. But it has also affected these, while in reality we've got 4 households for each. So what we can do is just click one, click this realistic population, which is going to open up a new menu, and then we can go down here in custom settings, click override population, and we can say 4 homes, add custom settings, and we've got 4 households now. And this is global for the asset, so all of these ones, this type, so this one is 4 households, this one, and then of course this other one, which is basically another asset since it has a different layout. I'll need to go ahead and do the very same thing, and then it's going to be global for this type of asset. So 4 households here, here, and here. Very nice. Wrapping up with some trees, just gonna place them single one by one. This is the Dakota Falls forest brush that I've created. And the cool thing, of course, is that it makes it very easy to place forests, but also single trees if we just reduce size and strength down to 1. I can also right click to circle through the trees I have in this tree brush, making that a little easier. But usually it ends up being alright when I just let it pick the next one. There you go. Nice little area. I like to I've started liking to create smaller districts, for instance, with like apartment blocks and stuff like that. So it's not really a neighborhood, but it's a focal point. And these were called, I think these were called College Park, right? So I'm just gonna call these college, the college apartments. So we've got a bit of a small area here. I think that adds a bit of extra flair to have these smaller districts that just designate, you know, a focal point. I imagine you would say I live in the college apartments and people would actually know. And we can do the same here. We've got a pretty big area here called Northtown, but we've got some apartment complexes here, Blackstone Apartments. I think I'm gonna do the same. I'm just gonna create my own little district here, and I'll just call that Blackstone Apartments. If I can spell that as. There you go. And now I don't think we can ignore the demand for more workplaces anymore, because if we check our statistics panel, we see that there's a single open job offering in all of Dakota Falls, and we still have a handful of households that haven't moved in yet. So we're gonna have to do something about this. I'm going to remove some of the small patch of forest here and place some low density commercial assets. We're out of downtown here, so it's just going to be like single floor, pretty bad land usage really, but we'll see what we can find. I'm thinking we need like a food joint of some sort, which could be this Pizza Hut. So I'm just gonna place that for starters. But then I'd also like, you know, to have, let's place this one as well. I'd also like to have like a larger asset of some sort, maybe a Mercedes-Benz car dealership. Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna place these 3, and then I want to try and see if I can make this, the ground here pretty flat. So I've just adjusted all these 4 nodes to the height of this node, and then I'm going to jump into our terraforming, and we're going to adjust the terrain level to whatever this node has. Then I'm going to try and smooth it out a bit. And I don't mind that we have a bit of a ridge here down to the soccer field at the elementary school. I'm wondering if we can get away with just raising this node ever so slightly, just as a bit of extra help. Yeah, we'll do like this, and then let's see if we can squeeze in all these assets. This one is really big, so probably not actually, but we might be able to fit it over here, this one. Let's just remove this patch of trees, and we'll move the Mercedes-Benz dealership over here and adjust the height to this node. We'll bring in the Pizza Hut and what was this? Some kind of sporting store. Just adjust the heights here. This also means that we have room for an additional asset. I think we don't have to have just 2. We can have one more of these, not 2 big ones. So why not a gas station? I think we'll place the gas station real close to the access road I'm going to create here. And then the sporting store can be kind of in the background. But the actual placement of these is a little hard to determine right now. I think the easiest thing I can do right now is just to actually create the road that kind of cuts through. So if we drag it out here, I'm just gonna enable some snapping. 90 degrees and 90 degrees. So that's a good start. Got room for the sporting goods and the Pizza Hut. So the Mercedes dealership, I need to angle it like so. Cool. It's a pretty cool asset. Then of course remove some of the trees here so they don't bother me. And then I need to create an access road for this as well. And I am thinking I've got a road that will kind of blend in with the pavement. So if we create a road from here, maybe that's perfect. Just jump in to move it, deselect buildings so that I can move in the road here. And I really want to make sure that these are all leveled to this node. Let's see, we've got a bunch of props here giving us issues. So I think we're gonna do the Mercedes dealership last, and then we're gonna just focus on fixing up some nice, sweet parking lots here. We'll create access roads for our commercial establishments here, or rather the parking. So I'll create one here, and we'll add one here so you can enter the Pizza Hut parking. And of course, we'll also add one here for easy entrance into the gas station. And I think I'm even gonna go for 2 roads here just for the sake of detailing. And I'm just gonna adjust these. Disable building for selection. Then I'm going to jump into node controller. I'm going to make these a little narrower. Just gonna go down to like 80%, I feel. Because currently they have a width where they also allow for street side parking, and I don't want that. So I'm also going to jump into traffic manager mode and disable parking here. These are just access roads to the parking I'm going to be building. So to make these parking lots a little easier to create and use a type of parking that works a little better with the steep terrain we've got here, I'm going to try and grab some parking assets that actually function as buildings. So if we just search for parking, I'll have a bunch here that are terrain conforming, and that obviously makes them a little easier to work with. I'm just going to place down a few of these and then copy paste them around to create the parking lot that I want. All right, new jobs added. So I guess ideally the car dealership wouldn't actually be angled towards this road, but the main road here. But unfortunately, I don't have like an extra sign prop that I can use. That would have been preferable. But for now, I'm pretty happy. They did a little extra landscaping out here just to make it feel a little more nice. And I think there's a good balance here between the amount of detailing and, you know, just filling out an area. And we did add extra jobs. The Mercedes-Benz dealership actually employs 55 people now. I guess not necessarily 55 full-time positions, but nonetheless 55 people. Quite a few of them well educated. The Pizza Hut, 12 workers, the majority of those being uneducated. I guess it's a minimum wage job essentially. And the Chevron gas station, it's much the same, 14 workers. And the fashionable fashion shop, whoa, nice, 14 workers, well educated surprisingly. But yeah, I like how this area turned out, and that's gonna be a wrap for this episode. I think we've added some pretty cool, distinct areas. Yeah, it's been lots of fun, and if you've stuck with me for this long, then thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. So have a nice day or evening, whatever it is where you're from, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.